Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan. So, alright then, here's another war movie I'm going to be reviewing. Of course, it's fairly low budget, it's obscured, and it's something from long ago. Another blast from the past, which is fine because I was going to end up doing this anyway, because usually I would want to talk about old movies anyway, especially if it's something that hardly anyone knows about. And it's this one here, folks. Oh yeah, definitely. Might as well, I guess. Because I've reviewed quite a few of war movies in the past anyway, and I've done quite a few recently. So I just thought, I guess doing another one of these won't hurt nobody, I suppose. Because why not, I guess. These can be pretty entertaining when they're done right, obviously. Anywho, of course, as always, let's talk about the plot, shall we? So here we go. Oh yeah. Anyway, what's going on here is that in 1942, Weston Chaucer arrives in this area. He plans to travel to this place where he will meet up with a very special person. Let's put it that way, folks. Of course, Ferguson D. Roosevelt, of course, and Joseph Stalin for this kind of conference, kind of a thing. His aides and army commanders strongly advise against traveling by train, but of course, Churchill wants to do his what he wants, of course. But the thing is that intelligence discovers that Churchill's presence is known to the Germans, so yes, of course, as a result, you might guess, they fear for a killing or kidnapping that may be attempted against the man's life. So yes, something about this must be done quite obviously. An especially secured thing here, they're trying to do this carriage, I guess you can say, an extra secure carriage is attached to a train, of course, hence the title of the film, of course. And there's this whole unit of an American commando troops that's assigned to travel with him. The intelligence agents are here, of course. So yeah, it's kind of like this drama kind of a thing that goes on that's going on here, of course. So there's that, obviously, folks. So yeah, something must be done about this kind of a thing. This commando is assigned to protect Winston Churchill when it is learned that the Nazis are planning who kidnapped him, blah blah blah, done. And to me, all dramatic or whatever. I mean, of course, it's always, of course, going to come into question how accurate a lot of this would be, obviously, as you may expect. But this film really does attempt to be like kind of an action movie with drama thrown in. But ultimately, this is what this is trying to do, an action thriller type of thing. Yes, obviously, there's going to be some drama thrown in here, folks. Ultimately, what this is trying to do is trying to be this epic style, kind of a popcorn flick kind of a thing. So yes, obviously this the plot is focusing on World War II's kind of setting by the Axis powers to kidnap Winston Churchill. Yeah, that's crazy. That sounds okay. Sure, we can use that as a part of the plot here. And yeah, it's trying to be this larger than life kind of a movie. And I guess in some ways it does succeed in trying to do that, at least in that regard, I suppose. So of course there's gonna be this intense music thrown in there for good measure, of course. And they're trying to have lots of music, lots of action set pieces, of course. So there's that. It's quite obvious what the director was attempting to do. It's pretty obvious. So there's that. And yes, that the director does attempt to make this as entertaining as it could. There's plenty of action scenes, of course. So there's that, of course, obviously. Okay, sure. And while at the same time trying to throw some, of course, drama thrown in for good measure as well. So, okay, I don't see nothing wrong with that, really. We're gonna have some kind of thing going on with that. Which I'm fine with, really, in some ways. Of course. I mean, if you can make it work, then there's that. When it comes to war movies, ultimately, a lot of people, that's what a lot of people want, is a truck ton of action. And the story here is pretty used much used as a way to string along these action set pieces, as you might expect when it comes to these types of movies. It's just done in a much cheaper production than a lot of other, than compared to a lot of other war movies in this day and age. So there's not gonna be Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan or anything like that. No, it's not gonna be like a Michael Bay kind of thing with the fancy special effects. It's not like that, but it does feel like an action-packed movie, just cheap, really. I know I keep putting an emphasis on that, folks. I'm just letting anyone know if anyone's interested in this kind of a thing. I'm just saying. So anyway, I just thought I'd just talk about this for a good moment here because might as well, I suppose. Because why not? I just thought I'd talk about another World War thing, I guess World War Two or what have you, I suppose, because these type of movies can be pretty wild in their own way. I just thought this will be a good way to just talk about various genres when it comes to, especially considering fact, like I was saying earlier, I would talk about usually some other genres, but just low budget stuff, really. But I don't see nothing wrong with talking about this, really, at the end of the day, because I do attempt to talk about different stuff here. But anyway, as for the film itself, it does what it's supposed to be doing. It does its job, I suppose. If you can get into this kind of a thing, I mean, sure, whatever, I suppose. But anyway, ultimately, this can be pretty wild in its own little way. And yes, that's the thing. If you never heard of this movie before this video, that's kind of the point as to why I want to do this. Because I just want to shine some light into this, obviously. Of course, I would definitely say it's always good to brush up on your history when it comes to the world wars and whatnot. That's fine. That's not inherently wrong with that, really. If you want to study when it comes to these battles, sure, why not? That's definitely a good thing. I mean, yes, it could be an entire video on its own when it comes to studying what happened in the wars and whatnot. What happens when people go at war? Whether it's the First World War, the Second one, or even Vietnam or whatever you could think of. Of course, that's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to study in the past and whatnot. That's great. And the war genre, yeah, I do believe that this is like a genre in its own. Can be pretty action packed anyway. I mean, yes, it depends on what kind of war movie. There's a variety of these types of movies anyway. Those are more drama type stuff, or the more action packed stuff like this one, for example. It comes in different shades, I guess. It just depends on what you're aiming for. It depends on what you want to see, I guess. So at least there's a variety of these types of movies in which you can watch, I suppose. That's not inherently wrong. I know the action packed or the drama seems to be like the most obvious approach when it comes to these kinds of movies, which in itself doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing because it just depends on how the execution is, I suppose. So I guess that's something. Sure, it depends on how it's done. All right then, and whatnot. For what it's worth, I thought this was definitely decently directed. When it comes to the action scenes, I found the action scenes to be pretty crazy in its own way. And especially the action sequences that's concerning the train, they were nicely done in their own way. Okay, they're gonna be somewhat suspenseful and well directed to some extent, I guess you'd say, sure. And it'd be pretty crazy, of course, in its own little way and whatnot. Sure, that's fine. For what it's worth, I didn't think that this was, I guess, a waste of time. At least as far as I'm concerned, anyway. But you do have to keep in mind that this is coming from someone that doesn't really watch these kinds of movies all the time. I mean, yes, like I was saying earlier, I would often talk about old movies, just not usually from this specific genre, is what I'm getting at. Is what I'm saying here. But ultimately, I could definitely say that, as far as I'm concerned, this was definitely worth a watch. It served its purpose, it served what it was trying to do at the end of the day. So I guess ultimately, I can't really complain too much, really. So yeah, there was that, of course, and it has a pretty it has a pretty decent pacing to it. It does have a solid pacing as a whole, of course. I definitely could say that. It's a crazy, wild movie in its own little way, and it's filled with thrills, and the pacing is pretty brisk from start to finish. And yes, I do like the location scenes and whatnot. And yeah, I actually didn't mind this one really. Anyway, I'll give this film an overall rating of a 6.9 out of 10. It gets a 6.9 out of 10 for me. So as always, thanks for watching. See ya. Oh yeah.